When we moved into Maplewood Estates, the gated community looked like something out of a magazine. Perfectly trimmed hedges, pastel-colored homes, and smiling neighbors waving as we drove by. My wife, Clara, and I had saved for years to afford a place like this. It was quiet, safe, and seemingly full of kind people, or so we thought. On our second day, we met Karen. She introduced herself as the HOA president, though she said it with the tone of a monarch claiming her throne. She was in her 50s, wore oversized sunglasses, and carried a clipboard everywhere like it was her badge of power. She gave us a welcome packet, which was actually a 25-page rulebook filled with absurd restrictions. No curtains other than white. No outdoor lights after 10 p.m. And no vehicles parked in driveways for more than 2 hours. It felt extreme, but we tried to laugh it off. Things turned sour fast. The first week, Karen knocked on our door at 8 a.m. on a Saturday because our trash bins were 2 inches away from the designated line. She issued an official warning. The next week, she sent an email about our non-conforming mailbox decor, a small flower magnet Clara had attached. She said it violated community uniformity standards. We complied, trying to keep peace. But then, one evening, Clara's brother visited and parked his truck in our driveway overnight. By morning, there was a citation taped to our garage door, accusing us of ongoing non-compliance. Karen had taken pictures and filed a report to the HOA board. We thought it would blow over, but then came the letter. It said the HOA had voted to initiate eviction proceedings due to repeated violations. We were shocked. Homeowners couldn't be evicted. We owned our property outright. When I confronted Karen, she said smugly, "The HOA can remove anyone who disrupts community harmony." I realized this wasn't about rules, it was about control. Karen was on a power trip, using HOA bylaws to terrorize anyone who didn't bow to her authority. I began researching HOA laws. And what I found was stunning. Karen had no legal authority to evict anyone. In fact, she was overstepping her role entirely. That night, I decided I wasn't just going to fight back. I was going to expose her. I started collecting everything: emails, letters, photos, and notes from every encounter. Karen's digital trail was long and arrogant. She signed every message, President, Maplewood HOA, with a little quote under her signature. Order is happiness. Ironically, her reign brought nothing but chaos. One day, while checking the HOA's official website, I noticed something off. The last official election had been 5 years ago. The bylaws required annual elections. That meant Karen's so-called presidency was illegitimate. She'd simply kept renewing herself in the position without notifying homeowners. I printed everything: meeting minutes, newsletters, and the outdated election notices. It was all proof. Clara was nervous. What if she retaliates? She asked. I told her we needed to stay calm and careful. But Karen must have sensed something. The next morning, we found a final notice taped to our door, stating our property would be seized by the HOA within 30 days. Unless we vacated voluntarily. It was laughably illegal, but terrifying nonetheless. I decided to go to the county clerk's office. The clerk confirmed what I suspected: the HOA had no power to evict homeowners, only to fine or place liens under strict legal procedure. But Karen hadn't filed any liens, she'd just been threatening us directly. That was a violation of state housing law. I reached out to a local attorney, Mr. Daniels, who specialized in HOA abuse. When I showed him the letters, his eyebrows shot up. "She's impersonating a legal authority," he said. "This is fraud. Possibly even harassment." He drafted a cease and desist notice and sent it via certified mail. Karen didn't take it well. She showed up on our porch the next evening, furious. "You made a huge mistake bringing lawyers into this," she snapped. "You'll regret it." I calmly recorded the entire exchange on my phone. She waved her clipboard and shouted, That she had the power of the HOA behind her. I told her she had the power of nothing but her own delusion. The next week, she tried to fine us $15,000 for legal interference. Mr. Daniels laughed when he saw it. "This woman's digging her own grave," he said. By then, other residents started whispering about her, too. Turns out, we weren't her first targets. There were families she'd bullied into moving. Retirees she'd fined into submission. It was time to bring everything to light. We filed a lawsuit the day we entered the courthouse. Karen strutted in like she owned the place, wearing a blazer the color of money and holding that infamous clipboard. She had hired her own lawyer. Though it quickly became clear she hadn't told him the full story. The case title looked surreal. Anderson vs. Maplewood Homeowners Association, represented by Karen Mitchell. But make no mistake, this was her trial. Our attorney, Mr. Daniels, opened with calm precision. "Your Honor, this is not a case of homeowner misconduct," he said. "This is a case of an HOA president abusing her position to intimidate, threaten, and attempt to illegally remove a lawful homeowner." He presented every document, the false notices, the doctored eviction forms, and the recorded video of her ranting on our porch. The courtroom was silent except for the echo of her own words. "I have the power of the HOA." Even the judge frowned. When it was her lawyer's turn, Karen couldn't stay quiet. She kept interrupting, insisting they broke community harmony rules. The judge warned her twice. Then came the question that cracked her composure, "Ms. Mitchell, when was your last HOA election?" Her face went pale. She stammered something about informal votes. The judge raised an eyebrow. "So you held no legal election for 5 years?" She froze. "Then, by what authority did you act as president?" Her lawyer sighed audibly. It was over. Mr. Daniels dropped the final bomb. Several residents had submitted affidavits describing Karen's harassment and threats. One elderly man said she'd fined him for smiling too loudly during quiet hours. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Karen tried to protest, but her voice cracked under the weight of it all. When the judge delivered the verdict, it was decisive: Karen's actions were unlawful. The HOA's leadership was immediately suspended pending reorganization. She was personally fined and ordered to pay our legal fees. But the real blow came when the judge referred her conduct to the state HOA Regulatory Board. Karen's lawyer placed a hand on her shoulder, whispering something. She looked like a balloon, deflating, her authority evaporating right before everyone's eyes. As we walked out, a few neighbors were waiting in the hallway. One woman clapped quietly. Another said, "Thank you for standing up to her." It felt like a burden lifted, not just for us, but for the whole neighborhood. But the story wasn't quite over yet. Weeks after the court ruling, Maplewood Estates was almost unrecognizable. The HOA board had been restructured, and a neutral management company took over. Karen was barred from ever serving in any HOA or housing board position again. The state had revoked her license after discovering she'd faked records and signatures for years. She tried to appeal, of course, claiming we'd set her up. But her appeal was denied, unanimously. The judge's words in the final ruling became legendary among the residents. "Community leadership is service, not tyranny." That line was later printed in the new HOA handbook. Neighbors who'd once lived in fear now came out for block parties again. Families reopened their blinds. The oppressive quiet that had hung over Maplewood was gone. Clara even started a small garden club, something Karen had once banned because flowers attract bees. Ironically, the garden became a symbol of freedom, colorful, messy, and full of life. One afternoon, as I was mowing the lawn, a man approached me. He was new to the neighborhood. "Hey," he said, "I heard about what happened with the old HOA president. You really took her down." I smiled modestly. "We just stood up for ourselves." He nodded. "Well, thanks for making this place livable again." A few months later, we received a letter, not from the HOA, but from the judge's office. It informed us that our testimony had helped establish new state guidelines for HOA accountability. Karen's case became an example in legal seminars about abuse of authority in private governance. Her career was, quite literally, ended by her own arrogance. Sometimes I still see her name online, articles titled, "When HOA Power Goes Too Far" or "The Fall of Maplewood's Karen." But for us, the best closure wasn't public humiliation. It was peace. True, quiet, rule-free peace. Clara and I sit on our porch some evenings, watching kids ride their bikes and hearing laughter echo down the street. The world feels normal again. No more fake violations. No more fear of clipboard shadows. In the end, justice didn't just evict a tyrant, it restored a community. And though we never wanted to fight this battle, we learned something powerful: when you stand up to bullies, even the ones hiding behind official titles, truth has a way of winning. Karen tried to evict us illegally. Instead, the judge evicted her, permanently.